Good evening and welcome to tonight's driver's ed class. As we normally always do, sign in. I'll turn down the music a little bit. I guess on your level it's okay. It's mine. As you sign in, I have drive times for tomorrow that are open. So if anybody is willing to indicate when they could drive, I'll do it first come, first serve for tomorrow. So we're slowly getting people So tonight we've got a big night of note-taking. I know you're really excited about that. Notice that the last hour, a lot of people have sent along a poster to me. Have not been able to look at the radio ad, Daria, but I will listen to that. I did see it come through this afternoon, so I know that you've got that sent in, so that's good. Videos, remember, will be due next week, so I'm going to give you a little bit of extra time for that. But look at the times up there on the corner of your screen, and if anybody can drive, I will give them out as people request them. So I'm trying to get as much driving in as I possibly can, because your schedule is extremely tight. This is a very difficult class to get people in and scheduled. We're kind of stuck at 11 people. So we're going to wait just a little bit more. Remember to also sign in on your phone. That way I've got a indicator of attendance. And asking the questions like I did last night, it does give me some idea of who's actually leaving. It's a little bit more difficult for me to know that, but you do have to stay involved, connected to what we're trying to go through with the curriculum and what the state wants you to know about information dealing with driving. So it's important that you don't float away from your room or go to a different site, but try to stay focused on the topic at hand. Let's kind of do a quick review. We talked about 3 safety devices last night. We talked about seatbelts, airbags, and we talked about helmets. We know with seatbelts, very important to have it tight and across your body to be effective. We talked about young children at what height or what age, where they're going to be either in the front seat or in the back seat. We talked about statistics, about males being less likely to wear seatbelts than females. We talked about passive and active restraints, where you have to be involved with your active restraints. Passive, just have a car that actually has that included in its accessory package. And I told you that I forgot to load the airbag video that I was going to show you. And it really, this airbag video goes into talking not only how airbags work, but it also talks about some of the new technology that is coming into some of the higher, mid-level, high-end vehicles. And I think as we see car manufacturers try to be more safety conscious and minded, that we're going to see some of these dropping down into the lower level models. Like, it took forever to get lane departure in vehicles, and now it's pretty much standard on newer vehicles that I've noticed, that I've looked at. Even the base models are having blind spot monitoring too. So let's take a look at the airbag video before we get into tonight's topic about turning, communication, and what was the other thing? Turning, communication, and vision. All right, let's take a look at the airbag video. Okay, hold on just a second. I thought I had it, and then it took it away. This is one difficult video to locate. Huh. I had it this afternoon. I loaded it. This is not good. Why didn't it come up? Well, it looks like we're not going to see it again tonight. I've got it over here and I can see it. I'm just going to take just a few moments just to see if I can do it one last time. Well, my apologies again. I had it up on the screen. And now I can't find it. I think I'm losing my mind. All right, let's go right into what we're going to be talking about tonight. So, 4 notes for this evening. We're going to be talking about the movement of a vehicle at first, important aspects of when you're driving with your state examiner. They're going to be looking at your position on the road. They're going to be taking a look at how well you get up to speed, bring your speed down, and basically the movement of your car. So just don't think I'm not hitting anything. It gets really involved. Okay, so this is really the understanding of the science of the movement of a vehicle and how it makes people comfortable or safe in a vehicle. All right. So the first thing I want you to write down are these 3 terms. One of them will be on your midterm: pitch, roll, and yaw. And when driving is very scientific, it really is physics. And I know some of you are probably saying, I don't like science. I get it. But we do have to have a basic understanding of the movement of our car. So these 3 terms really encapsulates how a car maneuvers into turns, out of turns, and coming to a stop. So the first one, pitch, deals more with stopping. So pitch is when the vehicle's weight shifts forward or backwards. Now, when it shifts forward, we're braking. When it shifts backwards, you're accelerating too hard. You're maybe, if you're in a manual transmission, you're popping the clutch. Remember, they're evaluating the way that you drive on your driver's test. So if you're hitting the pedals too hard or not enough, it's either you're nervous or you haven't driven the car much. But you've got to show that you've got control of that vehicle for the short period of time that they take you out for your driver's test. So always think when you feel pitch, there's going to be a resting, and we'll get into pitch a little bit more on an upcoming slide. But always think of pitch at your stop line. So if you can think of your car going forward a little bit and then resting backwards, then you've come to a full stop and there's a definite pitch to the vehicle. A roll deals more with the middle of a turn. If you've ever been in a car in the back seat when someone's been driving too fast and they've gone around a corner, maybe even an off-ramp on a highway that has one of those circular cloverleaf off-ramps, you know everybody's leaning in one direction or the other. This is a definition of roll, where your car is leaning more to the left or more to the right. That does not show good control of a vehicle. It does show that you probably like to go fast, and I wouldn't want to do that on my driver's test. Yaw, the vehicle's tires shifts from one side, more so on one side than on the other, and it's a little bit more difficult to explain till we get to it. So what I want you to write down under pitch in your notes: pitch is a true sign of inexperience with a vehicle or inexperience with driving. There's a level of comfort when you drive with someone that is a good driver. You feel very secure. You feel like the driver knows what they're doing. They're in control. But when someone comes to a stop or when they pull away from a stop sign, you can basically tell who's new at driving and who's not. So when you get in the car to go for your driver's test, first impressions mean everything. So the minute you take your foot off the brake pedal or onto the gas, they're going to start formulating what type of driver you are. So any misuse of your pedals is a sure sign that maybe you're not ready. So like I said before, pitch can happen forward, it can happen backwards. So if it pitches forward, like in the bottom picture, it's because of braking and braking too excessive. And remember, we talked about the limousine braking, where you brake about 10, 15 feet before your stop line, then you let go a little bit and you cruise up a little bit further. It's more of a resting stop. You don't have much of a pitch. And notice some of the terms that are underneath the red heading of changing vehicle load: control braking, threshold braking, trail braking. All these are terms that we had last week. So when you start understanding what these terms mean and how to do them, it's going to show that you understand the concept of being a well-equipped, safe driver. Now, pitch going at the top picture where it says changing vehicle load from front to rear. Once again, progressive accelerating, thrusting or pushing the accelerator down too hard is definitely going to make the car lurch forward. Once again, a sign of someone that's inexperienced with driving. Next term is roll. So what would constitute people that would have a problem with a car that is rolling? Definitely speed, and it's excessive speed. You'd never roll when you have slow speed. So my philosophy for most people when you go for your driver's test is to go the speed limit or slightly below. Will they let you go a little bit above? Yeah, they're going to give you a little bit. But I think if you go a little bit below, they're going to be a little bit more impressed with your safety consciousness, trying to make them feel more comfortable as a driving examiner, because you don't want to scare them. If you scare somebody, I don't think they're going to look at you too, favorably as being ready to drive. But if you make them feel safe, comfortable, at ease, then you're going to probably gain some extra points. Road design can have a bearing on roll. Road design meaning is the roadway banked or crowned. I'm going to do this on a blank piece of paper. So let me just kind of get out of here for a second. And let me get into me. All right. Now, when you have a roadway, we think roadways are level, like the red line right here, but they're not. Actually, roadways are higher in the middle. So this is where your double yellow line would be. This is where your white edge line would be. It's higher in the middle and it slopes on either side. So this road right here is crowned. I think I'm going to need this is going to be a great night. I don't have another pen right here. I got a marker. I'll use that. All right. So crowned. Now, with roll, a lot of times you're going to have your double yellow, white line, double yellow, white line. So this is a roadway that is banked. And this top one is banked to make a left-hand turn. So this would be a left-hand turn, this one right here. And this one right down here would be banked to make a right-hand turn. If you ever take a look at a race car track, a racing track, speedway, roadways are not level. Okay, they're banked. Okay, they're banked to make left turns. They're all left-hand turns. So that will allow them to keep such a high level of speed. So when you are on a road that's going 40, 50 miles per hour, they have to give a slight bank to the road in order for you to go those speeds. Weather will come into play with roll because of how you brake to get into the turns, because you know that you can't take turns too fast in heavy rain or snow or sleet because you're going to just leave the roadway. So weather will affect the way you're braking and coming into your turns, and you may find a little bit of roll. You can actually feel the movement pushing down on one side or the other. Most of this is what we just talked about with the roadway being banked, crowned. So I'm not going to get any more technical than what I just gave you right there. But just understand that it has a lot to do with your speed and steering coming into these situations. Now, this last one is the hard one to explain, yaw. And I guess from this picture where you see the car that's in that oval, gray oval, think about coming into a turn and you're braking really hard. So your front left side of your vehicle is braking downward. So you're pitching a little bit to the front left corner, but you're lifting up on the back right corner. This is what's going to throw you out in your turn. This is where you're going to spin out. So your back end is now going to spin probably to the left. When your front tire is pitching that excessive and your back right side is coming up, it's going to put you into a spin. Oh, actually, no, it's going to spin you to the right because the back right side is going up, and that's where you don't have your traction. Yeah, so that's going to spin you around that front tire that's gripping the road and coming in with the pitch. Yeah, you're flying out to the right on that one. So this I do want you to diagram out. So take a moment, take a look at the cornering, and the word apex in the picture, rather than use the word apex, put the word middle. So that's the middle of the turn. So what I want you to do is draw a line, okay, a diagonal line where that word apex is. And I want you to realize that all your braking needs to be done before you get to the middle of your turn. You never want to start your braking late. You don't want to get to the middle portion. You want to brake at the beginning, right where the car is located right now. You should be braking substantially. And then you're going into the turn, and when your back end gets just beyond the middle portion, then you can let go of the brake pedal or accelerate. Sometimes you just let go of the brake and just let the car, the natural momentum of your vehicle take you through the turn. And it's kind of interesting if you take a look at those arrows. What you want to see is the green arrow is where you're going. Okay, or where you want to go, excuse me. The green arrow is where you want to go, your intended path. The red arrow is where science is taking you. And what usually happens, you go where the blue arrow is, where you're actually going to go. So it's not where you want to go. It's not where science is taking you. You got to split the difference. So you've got to be more in control with your steering input and your braking input in order not to go where that blue arrow is. And the other thing that I want you to start to realize, and this is going to be a big problem in the summer with warmer temperatures, if you look to the far left, it shows you a tire. Now, the rubber of your tire is being held on to the rim of your car with a very small seal that's preventing air from leaving your tire. So your car tire is just like your bicycle tire. And if you've ever gone to your bicycle in the spring, maybe you just have recently, and you've got a flat tire, and you take a look at it and it looks like your tire is away from the rim a little bit. Well, you've got to put it back on the rim, and bicycle tires don't always use some type of a sealant, but cars usually use something, and you interject air into your tires, and then it adheres to the corner or the edge of the rim, and you get your tire fully inflated. But take a look at the bottom picture where it's got arrows forcing air out. When there's flexion to your tires, this is people that drive too fast and drive into corners, steering with too much input. you're putting too much stress on the sidewalls of your tire, and the tire is going to start to bend or flex, and you're going to lose tire pressure. So this is why you should check your tire pressure almost on a weekly basis, so to make sure that your tires have proper inflation. When you don't have proper inflation with your tires, one, it doesn't give you good adhesion to the roadway. Second thing is that if you have bad weather, they're not going to be effective. So tires are only going to be performing the way that they should if you have them maintained well. And we'll talk more about pounds per square inch or how to inflate a tire just a little bit later. That was basically something that you needed to do with Know Your Vehicle. And very few of you actually have handed in that homework. So make sure that you get that to me. That's got to come in. I got to have that. Okay, now for some terms that the state wants you to know. The first one, and I'm not a big proponent of some of these things because some of you are way beyond this level right now, but at least I want you to have some idea of what the state is trying to express and their reasoning and logic behind having you understand basic principles of driving. So the first one is write down the word target, and they feel that someone that's never driven before, and I'm talking new, with like 1 or 2 hours maybe in a parking lot, getting them out on the road, how do you keep them maintained going down the lane the way that they should? And by the way, most of you are beyond this point right now, so this is a good thing. You should be aiming your car toward the furthest point up the road. So pick a target. So that's what I want you to write down. Find a focal point that's in the middle of your lane, way up ahead, as far as you can see, and that will be your target. That is where you're basically taking your steering wheel. If your steering wheel was a face of a clock, you're lining up 12 o'clock with the furthest point that you can see in your lane. That's going to be your target. Now, of course, if we were to put a spray can underneath your vehicle, like we have a green path here indicating your target path. So now we know our tires, left side, right side, are going to be on the roadway in this position. And this is where your car is going to be traveling. So what you've got to do now, you see your target, you basically understand where your tires are going to be. Are they lined up to miss any obstacles that are in the road that could maybe damage your alignment, maybe pop a tire? So you're starting to think about, even though I want to go towards that target, do I have a free passageway to get to where I want to go? So once again, there's the steering, 12 o'clock at the bottom with that black or white strip on the steering wheel indicating whether you're on target. So here's a good example of being off target. So we know right now that that piece of black masking tape or whatever it is not aiming towards that circle. It's actually aiming towards the mailbox. So if we were to just let the car continue on, we're going to be crossing the center line right around the top of a hill or a corner right there. And we may be, unsuspecting, knowing that maybe we're not quite where we need to be, and there could be a car coming around the corner or up the hill here, and they're not going to be suspecting us to be there, and this is where there's going to be a problem. So a lot of times people don't catch it till it's too late. So we want to make sure that we are in our lane, positioned correctly, that we're not going to cause problems for other people out on the road. So here's a car back on target, so they're doing exactly what they need to be doing. So under your the word target in your notes, I want you to write down 3 things. The 3 things they want you to take away from targeting, or what we call tracking because of the target path, is that it's giving you an idea of how far to look down the road, how to position your car, so how to look, okay, so distance-wise, where to look, okay, looking at your target path, are you going to be hitting anything that's going to be a problem? Could be even a parked car. You may not hit it, but you're going to be awfully close to it, and what to look for. So those 3 things: how to look, where to look, what to look for. It's going to help you be more aware of your position on the roadway. Now, when you want to make a lane change, so let's say here in the picture, it says you intend to make a right turn. Where is your target? Now, if we were going to continue on in this lane, it would be probably up to that van that's kind of going off to the left up there. We're probably looking at the front of his vehicle right now and aiming it that way. But if we want to make a lane change, we're probably looking at the license plate of the truck that's in the right lane. But remember that you have to, on a lane change, you have to use your directional to indicate you want to go from the left lane to the right. You need to look in your rearview mirror, side view mirror, look over your shoulder. But a lot of times when people look like to that pickup truck, while they're looking in their mirror or looking over their shoulder, they're already moving into the right lane. You do not want to do that. You've got to remember on a lane change, you keep your hands still and steady to maintain a proper position in the left lane until you've made all the checks and it's free for you to move over to the right lane. And some of you have already done 3 hours of driving with me. Your next drive with me will be lane changes. So if you did angle parking your last time driving, and I had a few people do angle parking today, our next time out, we'll be doing what we see here in the picture. We'll be working on how to keep our hands still while we're checking our mirrors, looking over our shoulder, and getting over to the appropriate lane, whether it be left to right or right to left. Here the state is giving you some terminology, line of sight, path of travel. So write this down in your notes. LOS-POT. LOS stands for line of sight. POT stands for path of travel. The problem being with most drivers is that you start to understand what it takes to accelerate, brake, and steer. So the manipulation of your vehicle you're starting to get. The real problem is reason and judgment to what is happening around you where people are coming into your path of travel. What do you do with a pedestrian? What do you do with a bike? What do you do with a car that's drifting in your lane? A lot of you are having trouble. You're not picking it up early enough. You're not moving out of your lane far enough. So things have to be a little bit different. So the driver does not see the problem, or the driver does not have the necessary time or space to effectively solve the problem. Driving is a constant solving problem situation. Okay, you're always thinking about what if. I think every moment you're in a car, you should always be every 15 seconds, what if? What if the light changed? What if that person walks out in front of me? What if that dog pulls away from its owner on a leash further than it already is? So you're always thinking about what is the worst thing that could be happening up ahead. So LOS stands for line of sight. POT stands for path of travel. And we're going to take a look at some situations here so we can kind of put it in perspective. All right, so let's deal with line of sight. The first thing I want you to write down, weather. Anytime that you've got snow, rain on your windshield, you know that your vision will be blurred or obscured a little. That's why we have wipers and defrosters. So weather conditions will lessen what you are able to see. Anytime that you encounter a curve, a hill, an intersection, coming to a stop sign where there are buildings, bridges, fences that are preventing you from your stop line to see where you're going to have to inch out a little bit, will create problems for you, as well as trees, bushes, signs, and billboards. So anything that blocks your sight or reduces your vision is going to be a problem, and you're going to have to think about, how can I solve this problem? How can I not create a problem out on the roadway with another person that's coming that I may not see? Parked vehicles, trucks, buses, stop, slow-moving vehicles, vehicles entering roadways. I wish we had, rather than little cartoon pictures of vehicles, I wish that with each one we could actually have a real photograph. And one of these days I'm going to go around and take pictures so we can actually use some of this stuff. But all these situations will at some point either reduce or interfere with what you can see. I think parked cars is probably the biggest one, because they hide pedestrians, they hide crossing traffic. I'm more afraid of crossing traffic than I am on head-on traffic. I could see head-on traffic fine, and you should too. So I know when they're going to cross the yellow line and come at me. I have no idea sometimes what's coming from some of these side streets because of the parked cars that are blocking my view of seeing them. The trucks and buses, I think, are more like when they're side by side with you and you can't see what they see. You can only see them. Here's one that I want you to write down. Anytime, and I mean this is probably the biggest problem for most people in Durham dealing with UNH students. If you're in a 2-lane roadway and the car to the left or to the right of you in the opposing lane, so it doesn't matter where you are on the road. You could be in the left lane, you could be in the right lane. But if the car that's next to you, up ahead of you, stops for any reason, you should start slowing down and stopping too, because there's something that they probably see that you don't. And it's usually like a jaywalker. So if a large SUV is to the right of me, I'm in the left lane, and they're slowing down downtown Durham, not even at a crosswalk, but they're slowing down and there's nobody in front of them. It's like, why are they slowing down? They should be traveling at, 25 miles per hour. Why are they stopped now? It's because there's something that's in front of them they don't want to hit. Too many times, new drivers don't think that way. They see a stopped vehicle, but they still keep driving down their lane like it's perfectly free and that there's never going to be a problem. Well, it's going to be a problem pretty soon because it's something that you just don't know that's there. It's usually a pedestrian. Sometimes it's a car backing out, but most of the time it's a pedestrian. Path of travel caused by the environment, red lights, stoplights, yield signs, intersections, narrow lanes, all these situations, weather, rain, ice, snow, water, anything that's coming between your tires and the roadway is going to affect your position on the road and how you're able to travel. Other moving vehicles that are going too slow, cars that are turning, parked vehicles, almost like what we just had with line of sight. Line of sight and path of travel are really conjoined together. They're really one in the same. So if you got a problem with one, it's going to affect the other. I do want you to write this down. Following distance should be 4 seconds. It used to be many, many years ago when I started teaching driver's ed, they said you should always stay back 2 seconds from the car that's in front of you. Then it changed to 3. And within the last year and a half, they now moved it to 4. So anything that deals with following distance on your state exam, on my final, on my midterm, I'm looking for a distance of 4 seconds. Because think about it. More time, more distance will always be better than less. Okay? I think they were thinking with 2 seconds or 3 seconds that people were paying attention to driving. I think now they've moved it back an extra second because we know people need extra time because they're looking at their phone a little bit more often than they should. So we're trying to account for people that are late breakers. Now, I want you to make this diagram in your notes. I want you to understand that we have multiple sides, or quadrants, I should say, around your vehicle. Now, I'm going to get out of this for a second. Hold on. So basically from your shoulders, where I've got my hands forward, okay, this is what we call peripheral vision. So when I have my hands out like this and I'm moving my fingers, even though I'm looking straight into the camera, I can see my fingers moving. If I was to hold up a finger, I can tell I've got a finger up, but I may not be able. Now, if someone came up next to me and held up a finger, I should say, I know how many fingers I've got up. But if someone came up and held up 2 fingers, I may not be able to know how many fingers there are, but I can tell that he's moving fingers. So peripheral vision is 180 degrees. Anything that's beyond this, like right now, can't see at all. So when we get back to that slide, we have to understand that we split our vehicle into these different parts. We've got the front of our vehicle, we've got the rear of our vehicle. That's why we've attached side mirrors and rear view mirrors, and now backup cameras if we're in reverse. It helps us to see the back 3 quadrants. Now, when we're driving, because you've got eyes in front of your head and in the back of your head, very easy to see these 3 quadrants in front of you. Don't have to move your head much. You can just move your eyes. Now, what I want you to write down, the problem area for most drivers is the front left quadrant. Most people look straight in front because we talked about target driving just a moment ago, and you may not know that's probably what you were doing, but you are looking down the road to make sure your position is okay. But most of you are looking front or right of front, where pedestrians could be coming, where the white edge line is. Most of you hug the white line more than you do the yellow line. So that left front area isn't viewed as often or as well as it should. Same thing with the back. Most people will look in the rearview mirror, which gives you a clear view of what's happening in the rear quadrant. You may get a little bit of the left, a little bit of the right, but I want people, when they start making turns, or lane changes, I should say, you've got to start using side mirrors. I've always had you, when you drive with me, after you make a turn, I tell you, after you make a turn, check your mirror. Should also check it before you when you put your directional on. Check it when you put your directional on. Check it again after you've made your turn. The more you use your mirrors, the more you're going to know what's happening in these three quadrants. Now, here's the situation. Let's see, and I know it's a picture. It's very hard to see, but I want you to take a look. How many people can you count, pedestrians, that are outside of a vehicle? Now, I'm talking about sidewalks, crosswalks, getting in or out of vehicles. I want you to look real quick and try to figure out how many people that you see, all right? And I want you to kind of guess on the comment section here on YouTube. So put it on the YouTube section. I want to see how many people can guess. That's a good guess, Waverly. You're pretty close. Let's see who can else guess. How many people do you see? 2, 10, 4, 5, 9? Nicholas is the first one to get it right. There's actually 7. Zoe's got it right. All right, good job. Let's see if this works. I'm going to try to see if I can get me up here. Yeah, I'm going to come out here just a little bit. So, oh, you're not going to see the picture. All right, I'll leave it like that. So let's go around and I'll count where the people are. If you go from the right to the left, if you go to the yellow sign, there's a person on the sidewalk. If you go way up to the top of the hill, there are 2 people standing near orange cones near the white edge line. So there's 3. 4, there's a guy on the double yellow line in the middle of the road, way up at the top. So now we've got 4. If you go to the left on the sidewalk, there's a person in green. So that brings it up to 5. And then if you take a look at the person to the far left of the picture, just at the corner, he's walking just from when you get the edge of the picture. There's a person walking to an open door, and there's a person there at the open door. So there's actually 7 people. But I like that people had high numbers. I'm always curious of why people see only like 3 or 2. Because this is what you actively have to do. Not that the people that are way up on the crosswalk are going to be a real problem for you, because they're going to be crossed by the time you get there. But what that's telling you is that maybe there's more people behind them that are going to continue to walk. So it just gets you into the mindset, okay, crosswalk, I see it. There's people crossing. Maybe it's an active time. Maybe they're going to like a county fair or something. I got to watch it. Now, the other thing you should take away from this picture that a lot of people don't, because we know that there's a person at that open door, I believe the car that's approaching us sees that too. So what do we know? When a person sees that that door is opened up, he's not going to stay in the middle of his lane. It already looks like he's getting pretty close to the yellow line. So as he gets closer to the yellow line, you're driving the vehicle right now. You're going to have to squeeze between that red parked car and the car that's coming towards you. So what you may have to do is move way over to the white line, maybe even stop before the red car, let the van go by, and then go out back into your lane or maybe over the yellow line a little bit. So this is where you've got to think about speed, position, and how other people are reading the situation here. Now, there are 4 positions in front of you that I want, or 5, I should say. There's 5 positions that I want you to be familiar with, okay? So we're going to go from the far left, and then we're going to move right. So if we go to the picture and we're way over to the far left, we can tell there's equal distance between the white edge line and the dotted yellow line with that single car there. That's what we call the center position. So if you ever hear me, I want you to stay centered. Center your car. I want equal distance on both sides. Now, the 2 cars that are in front of the center position, I want you to diagram. And I noticed one's on the white line, one's on the dotted yellow. They're not over the line. That's the 2 cars that are in front of them. We'll deal with them in a moment. But the 2 cars that are in front of the center position, we're going to call that left of center and right of center. Okay, so left of center, right of center. What would be some situations that you would want these positions? Left of center would be like a bicyclist, a dump truck, a mail truck. Right of center could be a pothole. It could be someone's drifting over the center line and they're coming towards you. Maybe they're distracted. Maybe there's something in the road and you don't want to hit it. Now, the 2 cars that are over their lines, we're going to call that far right, far left. Those are extreme situations. So everything that we see happening with left of center, right of center, if it's more of an extreme case, then we're going to even push our car more to the right or more to the left. So you need to be familiar with these 5 positions. All right, so that takes us through some terminology. Now, this has to do with what you had to do for reading. I wanted you to read chapter 6 and 7. If you haven't done the questions, please do them at the end of tonight when we're done. But we're going to talk about vision for just a little bit. And what you see on the slide right here, we have 5 terms detailing a type of vision. So we've got visual acuity, distance vision, depth perception, central vision, peripheral vision. Each one is going to give you a vital component to pick up information when you drive. So we're going to kind of key in on what does each of these 5 vision components, how do they help us become a better driver? So the first one, and do not write everything down here. I only want you to write down the term. So write down the term visual acuity. And all I want you to write down here is it allows you to see clearly. Anytime that you have anything that blocks your view, whether it be outside beyond the windshield or inside the car, could be your glasses, you're not going to see things sharp and clear. And to put it in perspective, and they gave this, I believe, in the textbook, to put it into perspective, if you're going 30 miles per hour and you have very good vision, which is 20/20, you can read a street sign, and street signs are 6 inches high. You can see that street sign from about 225 feet, which is 4 or 5 seconds. But if your vision is bad, 20/40 vision is bad, you would have to be within 90 feet or 135 feet or 2 to 3 seconds. So that's less distance, less time, and you can't react to things well. So better vision that allows you to see detail, you're going to be able to process what you need to do in a more timely manner. So this is why, think about it. We talked about getting your license. What's the first thing that they ask you to do? It's a vision test. That should be the easiest thing to do. You should be able to pass that right now. If you do not pass your vision test, you do not go on to the written test or the road test. You don't get your license. No, George, I did not find the answer. I haven't had enough time to look into that. I'll look into it tomorrow. George was asking a question in the car when he was driving today about if you hang something from your mirror because it blocks your vision, is it a primary or secondary offense? I've got to look into that. Haven't had a chance. Okay, distance vision, I want you to write down. If your distance vision is poor, you may not see hazards till it's too late to react safely. Sometimes it could be the windshield that's kind of clouded if you're a smoker. And a lot of times plastic with heat will give off some type of like a dust. It'll get hazy. Your windshield will get hazy on the inside. So poor distance vision and excessive speed increases risk of making unreliable judgments with potentially disastrous results. So distance vision is really looking way up the road and being able to see things. Depth perception, which is really important, so I want you to write this one down, is seeing and judging the relative distance of objects correctly. This is why when you look in your side mirrors, and most of you who have driven twice with me already, you know we have a lesson where we practice using our side mirrors to find the edge of a roadway and holding a position, because at times we don't see too well in our side mirrors. We don't understand what we're looking at and what does that really mean. Is that a foot or is that 2 feet or is it 3 feet? We look in mirrors and we really don't have a good grasp of really how close or far away we are from things. So even when you're driving, when cars are coming up on the side of you in your side mirrors, it's hard to tell how close they are. Depth perception will also play a factor in how close you get. Some people don't know what 4 seconds looks like. Pulling out into traffic, judging the speed of cars that are coming, and judging stopping distance. We're going to play a little bit of a game here. So I want you to find a blank area in your notepad, and I want you to write something down. So I'm going to show you a picture. I'm going to explain central vision, how important it is to see everything clearly and understand what is truly going on, all right? So what you focus on is what you see most clearly when you drive, all right? So I want you to focus on this picture that I'm going to put up on the board, the computer screen. I'm going to show it for about 3 seconds, and then I'm going to take it off. And I want you to write at least 2 or 3 things that you see in the picture, okay? So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, write down what you saw in the picture. Okay, you got to put something down. I'm waiting for people to respond so I know that you're here. Okay, that gives us enough time to really ponder what we actually saw. I think everybody gave me a good description of what was in the picture, but it's not the real image of the picture. Let me get out of here for a second. I think a lot of you keyed in on different aspects of what was in the picture, okay, but they were not the most obvious, or I shouldn't say obvious. The biggest image of in the picture was a picture of a baby. Okay, no one saw the baby. No one here on the comments mentioned the baby. The biggest image in the picture, let me show you. Let me get out of here. The biggest image right here is the baby. So yes, there's a tree, there's people, there's water, there could be an island. You see, there's rocks off to the left. Those were all in the picture. But if you take a look at right above where the people are off to the right, those are the feet and the knees of the baby up in the tree. And then up near the top of the branch, you've got the forehead with an eye, a nose, a mouth. The head is way over to the left. This was a picture of a baby, and they added everything else to take your attention away from the picture of the baby. So a lot of times, think about this. A lot of times we may be driving and we think we know what's going on up ahead. Yes, there's a parked car. Yes, we see a crosswalk. But how come you don't see the pothole? The biggest thing up ahead that's going to be the biggest problem for us is if we do not change our speed and our path of travel, we are going into like a foot deep pothole. There's something that we're missing here. We shouldn't be focusing on the crosswalk or the parked car, because the parked car isn't moving and the crosswalk is just there with no people. The biggest thing here that we have to be concerned about is the pothole. So when you're driving, you've got to start thinking, am I picking up the biggest, the most important thing that's up ahead? But we're missing things. People will miss things. Now, you will not believe this, and no one has done it quite yet. One person almost did it, but I jumped in and saved them. But I will tell you, of a class of 20, there's going to be at least 8 of you, that will probably run a stop sign if I don't use my brake or if I don't tell you to slow down and stop. You will have gone right through an intersection, right through a stop sign because you never saw it. You are focusing on other things that were not as important. I would think that a stop sign is pretty darn important. So why is it that we miss things? Because there's so much going on in driving. There's only so much that we can pay attention to that everybody, even myself, we miss things. Now, we want to try to minimize what we miss. We don't want real bad problems like stop signs, but we're going to miss things when we drive. So this is why it's important to not be distracted, to be focused. Be careful how many people in the car that are talking, and if you're looking. That's the other thing too. I don't understand why drivers why they feel the need to look at people in the front seat or even turn their head and look out in the back seat when someone's talking to them. You're in a small space. Why are you turning your head to look at somebody? You should be paying attention to the road. But the moment you look at somebody or look over your shoulder, you're going to be missing something that's happening in front of you. Let me show you this. This is a scientific thing that they've done, and it's called inattention blindness. So I want you to write down this term. You will be tested on it. Inattention blindness, and I only want you to write down the first sentence. So I want you to write down, inattention blindness is failure by a person to notice something. You don't have to write down stimulus. To notice something that is in plain sight. The picture of the baby was there. Now, if I had showed you that picture and I asked you in the comment section, tell me when you see the baby, all of a sudden, I'm going to start seeing comments. Oh, I see the baby now. And next person, oh, I see him now, because you're looking for it. If you're told to look for something, you're looking for it. But a lot of times, no one's telling you to look for things while you're driving. They expect you to find them. So That something is usually unexpected but fully visible. This typically happens because as humans, we are overloaded with inputs. It's impossible to pay attention to every single input that is presented. A person's attention cannot be focused on everything, and therefore, everyone experiences inattention blindness. Okay, let me show you a couple clips on inattention blindness. So let's see if you can see this.
The difference between these two men seems obvious. Their faces are different, their hair is different, even their shirts are a different color. And yet an experiment by psychologists Dan Simons and Chris Chabris at Harvard reveals that our brains actually process very little of what comes in through the eyes.
In this experiment, a subject comes up to a counter, and a first experimenter hands them a consent form. As soon as they finish signing the consent form, they hand it back to the first experimenter, who then takes the consent form, ducks down behind the counter to put it away, and a different experimenter then stands up and hands the subject a packet of information and sends them into a hallway where we ask them questions about it.
This wonderful experiment uncovers an aspect of the brain's attention system known as change blindness.
Change blindness is the idea that we often miss large changes to our visual world from one view to the next. We're often not able to see large changes that would appear to be perfectly obvious to somebody who knows they're going to happen.
And incredibly, in 75% of cases, the subjects don't notice a thing.
The lady who took me up here, she opened the door for me and told me to walk over to the desk.
This form.
All right. I think there was a sign that said experiment. And a man there gave me a form to sign.
There was the guy standing under a big sign that said experiment. And to my left, there was like a pot with some dirt in it and some plastic containers. Is it the fifth?
Yes.
Oh, I filled out a form.
Okay.
Right.
This form. How long would it be about before
And I asked him how long it would take. He said about 10, 15 minutes or so.
I guess I have the time to do that.
Did you notice anything unusual at all after you signed the consent form?
I just signed it, and I didn't even pay attention to anything that was written on it.
Okay.
Yeah.
After you handed it back to him, did you notice anything unusual happen at all?
If you could just take this into the next
No,
room.
no, I probably wasn't even looking that direction. I probably
Okay.
turned and looked towards the clear door. I saw some people there.
Okay.
Then I turned back and looked at him for a second.
Okay. Did you notice anything unusual at all after you signed the consent form?
No. This is only going to take 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah, it'll be real short.
Okay.
The person who stood up was actually a different person.
Okay.
I gather you didn't notice that that was different? A different person actually stood up and handed you this form and sent you out toward me. I gather from your reaction you didn't notice that?
No.
Okay. Don't feel bad about that. Actually, most of the time, we find about 75% of people don't notice.
You serious?
Yeah. The person who stood up with the packet was actually a different person
Wow.
than the first person.
That is incredible.
So I gather you didn't see it then.
I didn't catch that, no.
Okay. What's really interesting is that some people notice these changes and other people don't notice these changes.
Okay, if you could just take this.
And we really don't yet have a good idea
Take that and go into
what separates those people who don't from those people who do. It might be that there are individual differences and some people are better able to detect these sorts of changes. But it's also possible that it's just coincidence, that the people who noticed it just happened to be focusing on a feature that changed. They just happened to be paying attention to the color of the person's shirt.
Take this into the next room.
And the people who failed to notice it just happened to be paying attention to something.
Now, I'm getting a little bit of a lag on the video, so if someone in the comment section here on YouTube, if you could let me know if you're having problems seeing it. My program that I'm using before I came on tonight wanted to know if I wanted to update, so I'm wondering if there are some bugs, and maybe that's why I couldn't find the airbag video tonight. But if there's any issues ever, and I didn't see the issue, but I think it was. Let's see if I can find it. If Cooper was mentioning that the music is too loud, could you turn the music off? So just let me know if it's too loud, stuff like that. That's the only way that I'm going to know, because the way I hear things or see things here is going to be different than what you're getting through. I have a control center for all these videos and sound and stuff like that. I try to keep my earphones in so I can hear, but hopefully people are seeing the video okay. But don't you find it kind of interesting that here it is that you're filling out a form and someone's telling you what to do, and they duck down behind the counter, and the next moment they come back up and you don't notice it's a different person? How can that be? I mean, it's really quite obvious because they really didn't look alike. I don't even think they had the same type of clothes that were on. So why is it people are not really focusing on things that are important? So let's have a little bit of game. I like to kind of mix things up again, kind of like the video, not the video, the picture of the baby I thought was hopefully informative to you, kind of put things in perspective of how easy it is to miss things. So I'm going to give you a video now, and I want you to tell me how many things change during the video. All right, it's going to be a magician. He's going to do a magic trick, and watch very carefully. Let's see if you can figure out how many things have changed.
Watch this next sequence carefully. At the end, I'll ask you a question about what you've seen.
Hi, I'm Magic Singh, and today we're in Portobello Road, and I'm going to show you guys a classic in magic, using matches. And today, to help me out, is Mark. Mark, tell you what, place your hand up for me nice and flat. Now, I promise this won't hurt, all right? So here's the idea. Let's just light this up, and if you close onto that nice and tight, here we go. Watch this.
Keep watching.
Don't know if you felt that or not. I'll tell you what, have a look inside. Open it up. See how the match is actually returned into the book, and it's still burnt. Okay, you're not impressed. All right, it was my first trick ever. But here's the idea. Just place that back in your hand, close it tight, and turn it face down again if you can. Now we're going to use one more thing, and we're going to use a magician's best friend, playing cards. Now the idea is really simple. You're going to choose one. So take anyone you like. Perfect. Have a look for yourself. And do me a favor, show the camera as well if you can. Brilliant. And you know what? Place it back face up on the deck. Now, it doesn't matter if I see what the card is, because we're going to do something completely different. Just watch this. Here we go. I'll do it slowly. Watch the king. I don't know if you felt that or not. Tell you what, have a look inside. Open it up.
Oh,
Check it out.
it's King of Diamonds. It's my card.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Very much.
Did you watch the trick closely? This is a famous illusion called Inattention Blindness. This illusion is not about the magic. While watching the routine, you may or may not have noticed the changes taking place. The question is, how many changes did you see?
Okay, so you've got to write down in the comment section now, how many changes did you see? Okay, so I'm going to wait for some people to start guessing, and then after about a minute or two, I will show the rest of the video, and we'll see how many changes took place. Let's see how observant you were. Good job, Jack.
Was there 1? Were there 3? Or were there 5?
Good job.
The answer is there were 3 changes. The
George
first
got 'em
change
all
was
right.
the red hanky to a green one. The second was his shirt swapping to a t-shirt. The last was his assistant becoming a completely different person. How many did you see? So why is it that you didn't see these big changes? And the reason is that the brain receives so much information on its eyes that you can't see everything simultaneously. So instead it picks and chooses according to what it thinks is important. If you change something that it doesn't think is important, you just literally don't see it.
So you can see that most of you did a very good job not only guessing the number correctly, and I could have let it go a little bit further so you could see that the option was 1, 3, or 5. I think this is the best class that is picked up, and even George named each change, and I'm sure that most of you probably were keeping track too. So you can see that it's a real issue. There is really nothing scientific about it. We don't really understand why some people do see things and other people don't. But we do know that it's a real problem. And what you're going to see in this last video clip that I'm going to show you, think about how many times when people have to retell a story. This is why people leave things out or add things, is because we have a tendency to forget or think that something happened that didn't really happen. So unless we have a video where we can go back, it's very easy to miss things. And driving is no different.
You are about to take part in a quick experiment. Take a look at this. Okay, now, did you happen to notice anything odd? Watch again. See any changes? Don't worry if you didn't see that it's two different men. It means your brain is doing exactly what it should be. It's focusing on the meaning of the scene rather than on the irrelevant details. Imagine how much energy and brain mass it would take for us to remember every single person, place, or thing we encountered. The things that matter, a conversation with a coworker, your child's first step, would be drowned by a deluge of information. So when there are minor changes to the world around us, we often don't pick up on them. There are two similar phenomena at work.
Inattentional blindness is the failure to notice something that's fully obvious right there in front of you when your attention is engaged on something or someone else. Change blindness is a failure to notice a difference between what's there right now and what was there a moment ago.
Scientists such as Daniel Simons from the University of Illinois have spent years devising experiments testing just how perceptive and unperceptive humans actually are.
So we feel like we're aware of everything, that we're taking in all of the details, and that if something important happens, we'll automatically notice it. It'll capture our attention. The reality is that we often don't notice unexpected things because we're aware of far less of our world than we think we are.
So how much or how little are we actually aware of? We decided to recreate one of Simon's most famous experiments to see for ourselves. Here's the setup.
Our senior series producer Vin poses as a lost pedestrian and asks a passerby for directions.
Excuse me, I'm looking for the skyline.
Then, we break the two up, walking through them holding a large sheet of wood. Now watch as I replace Vin. You might think people would notice the switch, but almost half the time, they didn't. Of course, that means more than half the time they did. We only tried the experiment 9 times, and by no means was it good science, but we were surprised 4 people didn't notice the switch. In Simon's original experiment, 7 out of 15 people didn't either. So what determines whether or not you can figure out the switch?
When you look at another person, you encode what's relevant for what you're doing right then, in that case, giving directions, and you don't pay attention to the details that are irrelevant, say what color their shirt is or exactly how tall they are. As long as you are able to make sense of the meaning of the scene and roughly the main categories of that person, say their height, their age, what race they are, what sex they are. As long as those important things don't change, the meaning of the scene really hasn't changed, and you're not going to notice that anything's different.
Scientists have documented inattentional and change blindness since the 1970s, and while they allow you to focus your attention, this failure to see every detail can prove costly. Drivers often cause accidents because they overlook quick changes to their environments, such as pedestrians or cyclists. Faulty memories can wreak havoc during eyewitness testimony.
The goal of vision isn't to build a photograph or a complete model of the world in your mind. The goal of vision is to make sense of the meaning of the world around you. Being aware of our limitations can help us adapt and compensate for them, allowing us to do things that prevent the really negative consequences that can happen due to failures of awareness.
For example, Simons thinks that people might be willing to put away their cell phone when driving if they just understood the limits to their attention. Juries might realize that eyewitness testimony is far from ideal. And the next time you and a friend are fighting about the details of a past event, it's likely you're both wrong. Now that's something to remember.
So you can see that it is a real problem for people that are driving, that you're not able to take in all the information. So try to spend a little bit of time thinking about what should I be taking in, where should I be looking, what's really important, what's not important, why focus on something that's not important. And these are some of the other videos that I've shown. I didn't use this one. Can't find that one. We won't do the questions. We're not in class. Okay, let's kind of finish up on a few other terms here for vision before we get into turning. Peripheral vision, we've already talked about this, but I do want you to look down at the third bullet, the third little dot. I want you to write down that your peripheral vision or side vision only allows you to see light and moving objects. So it lets you see color, whether something is bright or dim, but it doesn't give you detail. Detail is what you get with your central vision, your focal vision. So really peripheral vision is more of a scanning tool. So when you see something move, you see something bright, it causes you to turn your head and focus on it to see what the detail is, and is it something that's really important to me as a driver. Four other terms that I want to go over right now are color vision, night vision, and glare recovery. So we're going to talk about color vision first. And I have a son-in-law that is colorblind, and he could take a look at, I have a light blue shirt on today, and he could think it was a purple shirt. Browns look black and blues look black. He really has a hard time, but can he drive? Absolutely. He's learned to know which light is being illuminated. So what is the brightest light on a traffic light? Is it the top, middle, or bottom? So if you know the sequence of the lights where they're located, you can compensate for that. Same thing with knowing where your turn signals, hazard lights, backup lights, brake lights. If you know where they're located, you basically know what it's trying to communicate. The next thing is night vision. Now, remember, the state wants you to log in at least 10 hours with your parents driving at night. Because I will tell you, if you've done all your driving during the day, like right now looking out the window, it is pitch black. Things are totally different at night. You can't see as far down the road. You can't see as far off to the side. So you have less time to deal with everything. And you could be driving in a very familiar place, but because it's nighttime, you don't know where you are. You've lost your bearings. So driving at night is an important skill to have. This is why you have to do it before you get tested. So you've got to be able to see in low variable light conditions. Usually as you get older, most of your parents will probably admit, if they're at least 40, they're going to say driving at night is not as fun as it used to be. Your parents may not even want to go out and do practice driving with you at night because they hate driving at night so much. Headlight glare is going to be a problem, so just remember, always look off to the right edge of the road. Don't look at headlights that are glaring in front of you. Same thing with your mirrors. If your mirrors are reflecting a light back into your face, what you should do is try to kick the lights out to the left or to the right on your side view mirrors a little bit further so it takes the glare away. And then on most rear view mirrors now, there's a little lever that you can, either push a button or flip up a lever and take the glare away from you. So remember, because you can't see things as well at night as you do during the day, a lower speed is probably always recommended. Glare vision, this could be, going by water where the sun is glaring off the water, could be off snow. This is where you get a quick blast of something extremely bright and your eyes can't focus well. It will start to get out of focus, and then you get those little blue floaty things in your eyes. You want to avoid that because it's not going to be too helpful for you driving down the road in the next 10 seconds or so. Let's talk about what communicating really comes down to. Really, communicating is a two-way situation where you're giving information, you're receiving information. So always try to be courteous and cooperative when it comes to letting people know what you're doing. This is why we have turn signals, brake lights, warning hazard lights. It indicates to people what is going on inside our car. Okay, then we have to see how they respond to it. So by doing it in a timely manner, it will give you and others the needed time to respond correctly. When you don't use your directional at the right time or put them on too long and they really don't know where you're turning, you're confusing people. And you never want to be driving when you're confused. So it does reduce anxiety and stress, and it reduces the risk to you and to others. If you don't communicate, okay, it decreases the amount of time one needs to see and understand actions, and then you're responding with, last minute decisions. It does increase stress and anxiety. It does put you at risk, puts others at risk. But more than that, it really shows what type of driver that you are, that you're more uncooperative, aggressive, competitive. All of those are not terms that you associate with safe driving. So remember your behavior and your attitude, not that they're going to be able to really judge that for too long because you're not in the car too long when you go for your license, but I have you for 10 hours. So I basically can formulate a pretty good idea of what type of driver you're going to be once I step out of the car, your parents step out of the car, and you're left to your own, judgment calls, how you're going to react behind the wheel of the car. I hope most of you will do as the other slide, being cooperative and timely, and not so much what we see here in this slide. So how can we communicate? We can do it with our headlights, signal lights, brake lights, reverse lights, and I bet you, let's just do this right now while I'm talking. Write down in the comment section, what color are your reverse lights, your backup lights? So write down in the comment section while I finish up the next couple slides. We'll see what people say. Horn, hand signals. You should know your hand signals. Hand signals should be, remember, so this is a right-hand turn, left-hand turn, out and down is slow or stop. So make sure that people have a basic understanding of right, left, slow or stop. Okay, got to be able to understand what they are. We talked about lane position. That's going to communicate to people what you're doing. So when you get close to the yellow line, it's going to be a left turn. When you get close to the white line, it's going to be a right-hand turn. And speed, when you slow down, it's going to be a indicator of whether you're taking a turn or not. Half of you are failing this test. No, your reverse lights. Your reverse lights, everybody, your reverse lights are white. If your lights were red, you're braking. Your brake lights are red. Your backup lights, reverse lights, are white. Think about it. When you turn on your headlights, what color are they? They look white, don't they? Well, guess what? When you put the car in reverse, you want to see the road behind you. It's not going to be red. It's going to be white. But see how we take things for granted? Okay? They are white. Okay? I get half my class. Every class I teach, half will say red, half will say white. We take some of these things for granted. What are some of the problems with communicating? People forget to use directionals. They use them too late, or they give the wrong information. I say right, you put your left signal on. So you go in the wrong direction. That's going to really freak people out. That's going to really make people have to get out of your way if you put your right signal on and you turn left. I mean, that's really, really going to make some people pretty angry out on the road because it could lead to a crash. So I want you to think about this. My philosophy on directionals, it's better to have them on and not need them than to need them and not have them on. So I will never punish you or penalize you in the driver's ed car for putting your signal on. Now, I may get after you if you put it on too early, so then you are kind of confusing people. But if you're in a right-only lane or a left turn-only lane, I could care less if you put your signal on. I'd almost probably encourage you to do it because it just kind of reinforces which way that you're going. I can't tell you how many times I've had students in the driver's ed car, and I've told them, I want you to go to the traffic light and take a right. And we get up to the traffic light, they've got their right signal on, and they turn left. It happens a lot. Not this class, but my last class, I had a lot of people that had problems with lefts and rights. Now, I will never care if I say go right and you put your left signal on and you go left because you communicated left with the signal and you went left. You just probably misheard what I said. Doesn't bother me in the least. But you're going to take me by surprise. If I say go to the light, take a right, and you put your right signal on, I'm expecting you're probably going to go right. Then all of a sudden you're going into the intersection, you start turning left. That's kind of freaks me out because I don't know what other people see and what they're thinking because you're taking me by surprise. So, be very, very careful with that. All right. I'm not going to get into turning tonight. I only have a couple minutes because I like to let you go right around 9 o'clock to do things. I still have a lot of people that need to do chapter 6 and 7 questions from responsible driving. So make sure that you do that. I only have half of the posters in. So I'm suspecting that if you don't do a poster, then you're going to do a video. So make sure you get your homework. Now, before I let people go, because today was such a hassle to try to get my schedule filled, I want to fill it up the much as I can right now on YouTube comments. So I want people to let me know right now, can you drive tomorrow at 1, 2, 3, or 4? And I'm going to speak into the camera and give you your time while you see me. So how many people, because this is only going to take a minute, let's fill in my drive times. Josie, you got it. Josie, yours is tomorrow at 3. So Josie's got 3 tomorrow. Who can take 4 or 5? I want a 4 or 5 person. So either text it to me because it will come up on my screen or put it in the comments for YouTube. Who else can do 4 or 5 tomorrow? Or 1 or 2. Come on, people. If you don't sign up to drive, I hate to do this. You go to the back of the bus when the next class starts. You do not get top prime time. You've got to free things up. You may have to cancel things to get a drive time in. You've got to make yourself available. You just can't pick and choose anything that you want, especially after school. You've got to make yourself available because I'll be driving with people in September. These classes are way too big. Bradley already got 3. I'm looking for 4. Can anybody do 4 or 5? I need a 4 or 5 tomorrow. Make yourself available. I guess what I should also do, whether they're just waiting for people to put down in a comment here, is, Lyra's got 4. I see it coming through. Okay, I got 4. I need a 5. Okay, Nicholas, I can go 5 o'clock tomorrow. All right, I got 3 people. All right, I'll let you off the hook. I got 3 people. That's good. That's fine. Jack, don't worry. Don't be nervous. Everybody starts out somewhere. We're going to either start in a parking lot or a back road. Nicholas, since you drove today, I'm going to give it to Bradley. Bradley, I'm going to give you 5 o'clock. So Bradley, and I'll text people to confirm. So Josie at 3, Lyra at 4, Bradley at 5. So Nicholas, you're going to be easy to fill in. You're one of my better drivers, and you live close to the school. I can fill you in. Nobody for 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock? I have no takers for those times. All right, I've got enough people for those 3 spots. I'm going to confirm with messages. I'll try to text to those that wanted to get into those times but didn't get through. I appreciate that. That's it for tonight. So do your reading for tomorrow. Bring paper tomorrow because you're going to have a quiz. There's a quiz tomorrow, so make sure that you bring a paper that you're going to have to send to me during class. So make sure that you are here tomorrow for the quiz, and we'll... Okay, I'm going to talk to... All right, so that's it for tonight. I'm going to text people. All right, have a good night.